Don in London, hello. It's April 10th, 2013. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour. My addictive substance was alcohol. Hello, I'm Don. I'm an alcoholic in recovery, one day at a time. And I share experience, strength and hope of how to keep sober one day at a time, just simply by being myself today. No longer trying to be someone else, no longer trying to look like the person you would like. Very good at being a chameleon, becoming what I thought you wanted, and then manufacturing a life around that. And these days I've stopped doing it. I've stopped doing a lot of things which harmed me and stopped me from developing as a truly independent individual with my own opinions and my own beliefs. Because if I told you the truth, you'd probably hate me, wouldn't you? Well, that's how it felt to me. It was better to fit in many instances rather than actually be the individual that I am. So, like it or lump it, I'm trying to be me. And that was a difficult choice, because I got to a place where I could not stop drinking. I'd had to be revived more than once. I got medical help and professional help to get me dry, that is, not drinking anymore. And they said, we cannot devote enough time to keep you sober and for you to help yourself. So why not go to a fellowship? And that fellowship turned out to be Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a fellowship I don't speak on behalf of, but I share how it helps me be myself today. So if you're in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know I don't speak for you, and I don't want to, and I never will. And as a fellowship, I don't represent the fellowship of AA, because it is as good as it gets today. When you encounter it in groups or meetings or in conventions or whatever you're doing, that is the fellowship as it is, just one day at a time. So the fellowship is evolving as people evolve, and still we are closely focused on helping the newcomer, because without the newcomer there would be no fellowship. It would die out, wouldn't it? So I talk about AA, and I share the AA Preamble from this little card, which explains what the meetings or the groups are about. Primarily, this is what AA is all about. So I'll share it now. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So, human beings sharing experience, strength and hope. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and even that is very loose, because you can just turn up and find out more. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. So if you haven't got any money, you don't contribute. But if you've got a few pennies to spare, so we can scrape by without, we're not about money, because we don't want it to be an issue. So enough to cover our basic costs. Now this bit is important to me. AA as a whole is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. At the same time, you as a person, you as a human being, you can do this. You can be allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. That's your right. And you can engage in any controversy and endorse or oppose causes. So you can be yourself. But the fellowship as a whole is this. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the main point in that is to find out who you are and not fit in, really. And there are 12 steps to help an individual become more open, honest and willing to engage in life and get back on a path of sobriety and truth, the truth of how to live now in family, community and society, depending on what is open to you, because some of the consequences for some of us may be that we don't belong very well anywhere, and we have to learn where we can belong and start life from scratch. And the beauty of the program is we can start from scratch any day. So we're very lucky, in my humble opinion, that anyone anywhere can restart their lives today. But it's blinking hard work. It's not an easy path. So what AA cannot do, it cannot fix you. It cannot fix you to be whatever you thought you ought to be. What it can do is ask yourself who you are, what do people see and what do people get from you through your actions and not your intentions. So it's building a life again, one day at a time. And the more we actually engage and make mistakes and feel the frustrations of life, the easier the path gets. Because with humility we keep on learning life. It's not that life is doing anything to us. We can feel very separate from humanity when we're in addiction, and coming out of that isolation is frightening. So part of why I do these videos, because sometimes you just can't get to meetings of AA or get to a counsellor or get to somewhere for some help. So I'm just giving you one outlook, and that's not enough. I am not enough in any shape or form to be of assistance on my own. I need a whole fellowship to keep me sober, one day at a time. And that's how it works. What I see is what I get. And if I can add to what people see and what people get, then all to the good. We need everyone. We need lots of voices, and we can't depend on one voice. Especially when we're new, the one in our heads is saying, go to the pub, go to the bar, I can't stand this. They're all a bunch of whatever they are in there, and I don't want to be part of it. Of course that's true, because who wants to be part of something which is going to take away our best friend, which then became our killer? So a few words from me this morning, and I'm looking at the Fearless Moral Inventory, which is step 4. So that's in my mind. How do I become a better human being? By doing a self-appraisal. What were the good points in me, and what were the defects, if you like, or deficits, the liabilities I had? And a lot of it is to do with spiritual. So my question this morning to myself, what is spiritual? And just looking it up on the internet, on any site which suits you. I quite like this. Spiritual direction is a process of accompanying people on a spiritual journey and helping them grow closer to God. And I can't describe God other than what I say in a few moments. So grow closer to God, or the sacred, the holy, or a higher power. Spiritual direction helps people learn how to live in peace, with compassion, promoting justice, and as humble servants of that which lies beyond all names. In my life, and this is my personal opinion, just now, this is just now and at the moment, spiritual is the universal truth, love and wisdom of now. Everything is spiritual, and in the moment we develop the truth and love through action, so we have to do things. The opposite or negative spiritual is lies, hate and ignorance. So on the one hand, truth, love and wisdom. On the other hand, we can also be telling lies, hate people and not know what's going on, ignorance. It's a bit like vices and virtues. We all have the capacity, as we are on our spiritual journey, to be either positively spiritual or negatively spiritual. It depends on our intentions and actions and what we actually do today. So if you're a newcomer and you can stay sober and be angry with yourself and angry at the world, and still be in a certain amount of denial about your situation, good, because that's spiritual. It may feel very negative, but it is spiritual. It's living what is now. And in my early days, I could lie to myself, I could hate myself, and be ignorant of the solution, which were in the 12 steps of AA, funnily enough. But I didn't want all that malarkey. I just thought a bunch of whatever they were. I didn't want to be a part of it. The very last thing in my life was being part of anything. And I reckon it was because I didn't want to get found out, or I didn't really understand that it was okay to have differences of opinion and still love people. It happened anyway. I still love people, but they seem to be going off on their own, whatever it was. I still love them. People need their space, and sometimes we don't give it, or sometimes we're just not right. So we learn a lot, because the rights, human rights we want, we need to give to other people too. Anyway, continuing. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is wasted in God's economy. When we express that something has been a waste of time, we forget that as human beings we are all learning together and separately on our spiritual journey today. So we learn together and separately the spiritual journey of now. I know my notion of spiritual is not for everyone, because I am still unable to describe God beyond the universal truth of now. And when I say the universal truth of now, which includes everything, people, places and things, and how we are developing and coping one day at a time, universal truth is far bigger and greater than me, because I don't know the universal truth of now. I don't. Like everyone else, the truth of now is as good as it gets, and then the truth changes as people, places and things change. Living reality is spiritual, nothing excluded, and everything to learn. Everyone is a learner in this day. Even when we do not think we have made progress and feel the waste of time, nothing is wasted unless we keep on doing the same things over and over and expect a different result. And sometimes we have to do the same things over and over and realise, like drinking, that we're not going to make any progress doing it because we're out of reality. We're in another one, a numbing reality of today. I'm sure that the last couple of days in the UK has brought up a lot of wounds which have happened over the decades because of leaders and their particular outlooks and values. And these are spiritual matters. Everything is spiritual in this world. And to suggest that diversity of beliefs and opinions which make people the way they are ought not to be included in any sort of debate makes the spiritual life a very narrow and difficult state of affairs. So if we say to ourselves, well, all that politics stuff is not spiritual, well, thinking, well, it is, because it's reality, and we need to be paying attention to it, because if we don't pay attention to it, we don't know where to vote next time, do we? And this is important. We need to understand and value diversity, the differences, because if we don't get the truth out of the differences, where will we be? We will be at war with ourselves and the rest of the world. That's what our major problem was when we couldn't stop drinking. At war with ourselves. And as Churchill said, the first thing to go when war is declared is truth. The truth is lost and the war continues. The internal debate as a newcomer. Am I on the right path? Do I really want to go through this pain for 90 days? Which is usually suggested. And the answer is yes. In my case, I thought, out of my life, 90 days, trying to find the truth one day at a time, that'll do. And believe you me, it was very painful physically and emotionally. and that was spiritual pain and emotional pain, all rolled up together with a fat history of hating myself. Anyway, so everything is spiritual in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. It's not your truth, it may not be. The recall of our UK Parliament to discuss the death of the previous Prime Minister back in, beginning of 1990s. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher is a spiritual matter, and the consequences of treating her death and her funeral as a matter of state will cause problems. The cost, £10 million approximately, that will provoke some people, and what provokes most people to one side or another is what the Iron Lady did whilst in power. Now don't forget, it was legitimate power. There's no argument about that. But you can disagree. That's the whole point. We live in a democracy. But it doesn't mean you're going to get your own way. There is no point in me elaborating any further. It is a spiritual matter which has been made bigger and broader because of the desire to place value far and above that which is deserved and that which is fostered as a political ideology. And that's why we're in a bit of a mess in the UK, which goes back to what she did. And some people value it and some people don't value it. This is the truth of now, and then the truth will keep on changing about this matter, because it will. And the changes are spiritual, as people, places and things are impacted by events today and each day subsequently. So one of the things you'll hear in fellowship is people's political beliefs and opinions on life and opinions about God and their understanding of God. So when it comes to a God as we understand him, it should be a God as I understand. It may be very similar to other people's understanding of God, but it probably isn't, because we don't discuss it deeply, because your religious beliefs are yours, and how you prefer to worship and be a part of any religion is your thing, and it's not for me, definitely not for me, to judge it. When it comes to politics though, I feel I have a right, because it's spiritual. It is spiritual. People say it's separate and segregated, but it's not, the way it's being utilised at the moment. So, how does diversity, tolerance and love affect me in sobriety? The celebration of a politician with an iron will and notoriety for being determined and expressing clear views about what they wanted to do, and then did it. There is no argument about what happened and what Margaret Thatcher did in my own mind. I simply disagree with the direction she took our country and the impact on people, places and things. Now this doesn't even make me a socialist or a Labour person, and it doesn't make me a communist either, because those political differences or diversities don't fit me. In fact, I am a bit obscure in my outlook. So the good news in our country is we can disagree, and we have the political system which allows everyone their point of view. The reason I mention this is because in the world of fellowship, we have a right to be here. We have a right to be ourselves, and we recognise diversity. And above all, we recognise our similarities as human beings. That's the most important part. I am allowed to express my opinion, and you are allowed to express your opinion too. I hope you do, because without you and your opinion, how on earth am I ever going to get to the truth, which is important right now? So I don't know all the ins and outs of all of this. I do know the impact it had on me. It made me a work hard, play hard person, and we get to a point where materialism makes no sense. The acquisition of anything makes no sense, because it personally had no value for me. It never made me feel better. I just wanted oblivion from the truth that life was miserable and I was on my own. So what does a lonely person do? They go off and start lots of relationships all over the place, and try to love and feel unable to make the deep connection because I was skimming life, superficial and indifferent, with my best friend always a bottle handy. So there are consequences, obviously. They're respectful of diversity, respectful of the similarities, tolerance and love. And I need your opinion to improve my truth and let go my ignorance in some respects. There are many things I just don't know about. In my family, something I know about, my mum and dad probably had very different views politically, and yet without doubt they loved each other dearly. They did, and they used to argue, and my father was very argumentative and abusive. So having different beliefs and opinions did not get in the way of their love. And chatting with my sister yesterday, who did not get a fair hearing ever from my father, she loved him, even though he was the most difficult individual with very abusive verbal behaviour towards anything that did not suit him. And I agree, I loved my father, but he was so full of prejudice. I hated it. But we did love him, and at the same time we often hated his behaviour and what he did. This is all part of human and being. This is all part of being human and spiritual. I'm pretty sure my father hated what Margaret Thatcher represented. At the same time, he would have respected her. Question mark. No is the answer. Not at that time. I respected her right. This is me. I respected her right to do what she did. My father simply was prejudiced in all respects. And the spiritual path for me, I can have my own belief and opinion about anything. And people may still love me. And I do believe within fellowship, the understanding which helps me most is we can love people and hate their behaviour. And that's true outside fellowship too. So we can love people and hate their behaviour at the same time. So those things, it's like I love you, but when I love you, and at the same time when you behave like this, I hate it. And hopefully the same is true. Hopefully the same is true the other way round. Sometimes people will dislike our opinions, beliefs and outlooks, and still love us as we love them. And it can be very strange to love a person and not get on with their behaviour. Do they want more? Do they want less? It's something we need to ask. So it applies in every relationship, and especially with the higher power as well, universal truth of now. So my beliefs and opinions can be challenged, and I can change them. Same as my behaviour, I can change that too. But some things maybe I hold on to for a very good reason. So how am I feeling this morning? What is really important to me is to understand where I am today. I do not feel anger or hate about anything. I feel I've come to terms with lots of what has happened over the years, especially by doing that self-appraisal in step 4. And the reason why is because fellowship started me back on a journey of discovery. And one of the things reinforced from step 4 is that everyone has a right to be here today. So all the anger and resentment I may have had against other people, I accept my part in all that. I do. And everybody has a right to be here today. No matter what has happened in the past, I would prefer everyone to be loved and cared for, to bring out the best of humanity in all its peculiarities, to respect and honour truth, to keep on learning the truth, to keep on learning about love and how to be with people, to be generous and forgiving. We don't forget, we learn if we are lucky. What we learn if we are lucky is how to cherish the good and love the good of people, even when they hold different beliefs and different opinions. Because how else would we learn the best path forward? Not just for today, for every day. So maybe I'm just winding my neck back in and saying, please, please keep your points of view, your beliefs, attitudes and behaviour which work positively to the good of people. And we are allowed to have our differences and diversity as long as we are respectful, tolerant and loving, and go with what is possible and accept what is not possible today. The can do, can't do today, and the wisdom to know the difference. So the meditation or prayer to God or to the universal truth of now, however you see the world is all, everything in it is spiritual right now. It's real. We cope with it, and if we can't, we ask for help. So we learn the can do, can't do. Freedom of choice and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's powerful, because it means we become respectful and we don't shout at each other, because there's no point. We learn to live as best we can in harmony and different. Why else would men like women, or whatever it is that we all like naturally? That's nature, what we desire. And if it's in natural amount, whatever nature's instincts ought to be, is something we all work out, and we will have a moral code around that, and we keep ourselves safe, and we try and keep those we are with safe as well. So it's a difficult life, isn't it? M. Scott Peck said it, the chain-smoking, gin-sodden philanderer that he was described as by the Daily Telegraph in his obituary. He said life is difficult, and if we accept life is difficult, then we can get on with it without it being an issue. It's true. A bit like that with alcohol. After a while, alcohol is always going to be there and available, and actually we learn that reality, for some of us, reality without putting anything in between us, helps us work out the truth of who we are and how to live today. Enough. The serenity prayer to God or in good conscience, or the universal truth of now, however you perceive it for you. God, grant me the serenity and also restoration to sanity. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference just for today.